Welcome to Board Game Archaeology, where we play time-worn games from the past. I'm Hunter.
I'm Rob.
And today we're playing Ulcers.
Ulcer, the game of manipulating company personnel from 1969, although it's also copyrighted in 1974. So I'm guessing it came out in 69, but this is like the 74 version of it. It's made for 2 to 4 players, ages 9 to 90.
The goal of the game is to be the first person with a whole roster of personnel.
Yeah, and your personnel, or what you get with the game, is you get this cool board, and it's very 60s. I love the colors of it. Each player gets their own personnel roster, and this is the thing that you have to fill up with your personnel in a certain order, and we'll get to that in a second. It comes with a bunch of personnel, secretaries, salesmen, sales managers, vice presidents, and president. And there's a certain amount for the 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player. It also comes with your Ulcer cards and kind of Monopoly money, but Ulcer money. And it's only $5,000, $10,000, and $50,000 bills. You get your 4 cool wooden pieces, which I love the old wooden retro, and 2 wooden dice, which I think are cool too.
Yeah, very cool dice. Like green, like little gold indents there.
It is. I love the feel of it too.
But yeah, getting set up is easy. You give each company $50K to begin with, usually in the form of, they say, 3 10s and then, 4
5s.
Yep. And then you have people roll 1 die, and whoever rolls highest, in this case me, I'd go first, and it would go left from there. And in this case, you just take both dice, and you'll roll, and you'll go as far as that, and you'll just go along the board until you have rather a whole set of people, or the other person has a whole set of people.
Right. And when you're hiring people, there's a hierarchy to it. Everybody can be paid the same, as we found out going through the rules a couple times. Hunter came up with this, and then I read it, and he was right. So you can pay everybody the same, but during a raid, there are special places on the board that allow other people to pay more and steal people from you. So you're allowed to pay up to $200,000 down to $500,000. And you have to have 2 secretaries, 2 salesmen, 1 manager, 1 vice president, 1 president in this mix that you're paying for. And the reason that you need to think about what you're paying for and how much you're being paid or to is every single square affects you in some way.
Yeah, and whenever these rolls, you can't just have people paid however you want. The larger roles, the president can never make less than the vice president, can never make less than the manager, can never make less than salespeople.
Right.
So in theory, you could have everyone in one single bracket, but it's very not practical, just because people can then usually steal it, because you're not going to be able to afford to pay every single employee and your president, $50,000 to ensure their safety.
Right. And when 2 people are playing, you only have 1 president and 1 vice president in your deck. So if you're not safe with them, paying them $200,000 or close to that, you could lose them really quick, and the other person could just take it. Say, I'm going to pay $15,000. If you have it at 10, all I have to do is pay $5,000 more, give him a raise, and he comes over to my side. Now the Ulcer cards, they're much like the board, and we should talk more about the board because each part of the board is special. Plus, they have 3 sections on the board that take you down a whole nother path.
Yeah, there's a lot of things because, reading the rules, a lot of the things that you do in the game is based on the board. A lot of the time, you are reading instructions as you go. For example, it's like, how do you get Ulcer cards? Well, you land on take Ulcer card spaces. How do you get down these specific ways? A lot of the time you land on it, and if you're threatened sometimes, or you're granted an opportunity, and you go through those places with 1 die instead of your both dice.
Right. In the payroll area, this one here, if you can't afford to pay, so if you land on a place that says you have to pay your employees and you don't have enough money for it, you pay what you have, you go to payroll, and you roll 1 dice to get through this. The problem with the payroll area is you're basically going to lose your staff. They're going to take them away. And there's also like a bad one that just kind of burns you and makes you go back to the beginning of that and do it again. So you might lose 2 or even 3 people going through that. And you're rolling 1 dice. the odds of losing 2, 3 people are really, really good on that. So you're starting the game over constantly, it seems. Another thing is the strike thing.
Yeah.
If you land on the strike thing, either you have to pay $50,000 um, or take the detour. So if you don't have $50,000, you're taking this detour, and they're doing the same thing. They're taking your players away, and then you got the one that's a benefit.
Well, it can be a benefit.
Right.
It's most likely going to be a benefit because essentially what it is, it's called business venture, but essentially you put down an investment to start off, and that can be any amount that you have. If you have 10,000, to use that as an example, you can just put that down and then you roll one. And as you go, some of those things are like your investment doubles, your investment triples, but also your investment gets cut in half, and there's one right at the end that will wipe you out no matter what you got before that. So the only thing you can do for the most part is gain, but there are plenty of opportunities to lose.
That's true. And when you're in these special areas, you go through the whole thing. You roll one die, and you continually go through it until you're out of it, unless you get kicked back. Or unless you come out of it, land in a spot that you can't pay your employees, and then you get kicked back again. So there's a lot of ways that you can lose your money, and that, of course, is why it's called Ulcer.
So what did you really like about the game?
I really like the colors. It's certainly 1960s. You can feel it all the way through our early 70s. Nice, bright, kind of flowery thing, which I think is kind of funny because it's all about business and about ulcers you get for having a fire, hire, pay taxes, pay everything. I think the instructions are unique. They're completely written in question form. So what is ulcers? And it tells you that. What are you doing here? It tells you that. How many people can play? Everything is written down like a question. I think it's unnecessary a little bit, but it kind of makes it fun. One thing too, is, and this is something that we've talked about in the past, is a lot of these games, all the information is on the board. If they would just start this saying, all the information's on the board, but here's some cool stuff, that would be kind of nice. Because after you get done reading it, you go, all the information's on the board. And it would have been just easier to do that. Otherwise, I think these are kind of big, but you need them kind of big to put your cards on it. So it kind of, you can see that it really fills the table up and really kind of makes the table very colorful, which again gives you that kind of vintage feel all the way through it. But it is a vintage game.
Yeah, and I really like a lot of the same stuff. It has a lot of personality, and I think that's a lot of, in the question answer format of the rules, it's like, yeah, I can add a little bit of meat to it where it might be unnecessary, but it was definitely done for style. It was a sacrifice that was intentional, and I can appreciate that about it, because if it has anything, it has style, or it has its mood. It has a certain sense of humor about things. For example, it's like the space that's called Scandal is where you have to rather pay 25K, and they're specific about firing your top guy and firing a secretary at the same time.
Right. They actually tell you what sex to fire. It's 1960s. The women, there is a woman president, which we were happy to see, but it's certainly not equal. And, well,
yeah,
dictates what's really happens. So.
Yeah, it's kind of funky in that sense, a little dated in that sense. But otherwise, I just think it's a lot of fun. And it's a very simple kind of, it's cynical but lighthearted.
It is. And it's funny because it's all about business and ulcers, yet poppy and fun.
Like a living contradiction, but in a really good way.
It is.
Well, thanks for watching.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about us, check us out on Facebook. You can also check us out at toyarchaeology.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Tell your friends. When you subscribe, you get this little bell notification. You can click that, and you'll get like an email or a notification when we put new episodes up. We try to do it weekly, but every so often we have to take a week off here or there.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.